Hi again, everybody. I'm Derek Gunn. Welcome to the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. This is Draft Takes. It is presented by IBEW Local 98. Mark Lynch is the business manager. Hey, a big shout out to everybody who has been following the JAKIB Media channel for all of our NFL draft coverage. Believe it or not, we have hundreds of thousands of people tuning in since Thursday. We hope you keep tuning in for all of our draft takes. We have an array of football minds that will give their take throughout the weekend. And of course, the Eagles had a big splash so far in the NFL draft. And I want to hone in on their number 2 draft pick because the Eagles chose to go back to the offensive line as they did a year ago with their second round pick. So who better to bring in to talk about offensive linemen than one of my closest friends in the industry, Barrett Brooks, who played in the NFL for 12 years. He knows offensive linemen in and out. And, of course, Barrett, the Eagles, with the second-round pick, they decided to take Cameron Jurgens, a center from Nebraska, 6'3", 303 pounds. Are you surprised they went with another offensive lineman in round 2?
I'm actually not. What is Howie said from the beginning? I mean, we're going to make sure that we take care of the line of scrimmage. They don't have a problem with going out and getting quality talent, whether it's a needed talent or, or it's somebody that's, going to be down the road. They're going to make sure they solidify the line of scrimmage. So they stayed steadfast in their theory. They went out and got Cam Jurgens, not Jurgens, Jurgens.
Jurgens. Yep, Jurgens.
And he's the heir apparent right now to Jason Kelce. It's crazy because, for the past 3 years, Kelce has been year to year. So because it's been year to year, he doesn't have a problem with this at all. He knows that he's not going to be able to play forever. By the time it's undefeated. So when you look at him, he's going to help this young guy get his, be in the best situation he can be in as far as helping him along in the process of being an NFL center. Kelce didn't really have that. He learned on the fly. He just had a great coach that mentored him enough to put him in a position to be a great player. This guy that they just Cam Jurgens, all I can say is he is the next Kelce, but he may be better than Kelce because he's in Kelce right, maybe 6 years ago. It's like Kelce developed into that player. This guy's already at this level and ready to play more. He's got a nasty disposition. I love the fact that he wants to go out there and finish every single play. He has a skill set that he can get up on the second level. They're going to pull him around like they pull Kelce around. This is a situation where you've got a clean-cut, probably the best center in the draft. Everybody talked about the other kid that got drafted first round. I like this kid better because he's nastier than he is. He's a better athlete, and he has long arms, a finisher. This is a great pickup for the Eagles.
He's not a player that we talked much about or any about all week long on our Sports Take show from 12 to 3 every day, Monday through Fridays with Barrett Brooks, myself, and Rob Ellis. So from my standpoint, don't know a whole lot about him. I've talked to a few people about him just to get caught up. But I'm a little surprised, that the Eagles went center right now when you consider some of the other needs. But when you look at Jurgens' situation, who better to learn the position from than a Jason Kelce, who was an undersized center, who took a lot of criticism early on in his career, but made himself into a Pro Bowler in the latter part of his career.
This is the latter part, Jason Kelce 2.0. That's what Cam Jurgens is. He's the latter part. He's the guy that's going to come in and step in, almost like, you'll understand, a Brett Favre, A-Rod situation. He can learn from probably one of the best quarterbacks that ever played a game. Then he comes out ready to play. He's already been baked and marinated for a while. Now he comes out, A-Rod becomes the Rodgers we know right now. Kind of the same situation with Cam Jurgens. You got Kelce teaching him the way, and plus with the best offensive line coach probably in the NFL. This kid's going to come out ready-made. He's already been based. He's already been baked. He'll be ready to play, take the reins and play. And you never know with injuries these days. Yep. I mean, towards the end of the season, you look at Jason Kelce, man, he's held together by bubblegum and duct tape. You know what I'm saying? He's the walking wounded. I mean, he's an older player, and he's a smaller player. I mean, you look at it, this kid is probably like 10 to 20 pounds heavier than Kelce. Same height, but 10 to 12 pounds heavier than Kelce. So he might be better suited to be in the middle and bang a little bit. I love this pick. At the time when it happened, I said it was a luxury pick, but it's really a pick in which the Eagles have held steadfast in doing it, since how he's been here. He
Yeah.
wants to solidify, and that's what we learned from Andy Reid. Solidify the offensive line, solidify those trenches, solidify the defensive line, and you can have some success. And that's a theory that says it's helped this Eagles team thus far. This is probably the best offensive line, the first, second, third best offensive line in the league. With the addition of this kid, if there is a problem, if somebody does get hurt, we didn't think the same. We thought the same thing at Dickerson. Dickerson was a luxury pick to me.
Right.
He played the entire season and played well. This might be the same situation. Now we know we need defense. There's no question that we need a safety and we need a cornerback. Right? We need a couple of cornerbacks. But the Eagles saw a need that needed to be filled in a not so distant future, so they jumped on the best player as far as at that position. I think in the draft, I think he was better than the kid from Iowa. That's just what I said.
I thought that Cepeda and Seumalo were the prime candidates to make the shift to the center position.
Cepeda, no. Seumalo, yes. Opeda's not. He's a good backup. He's a definitely good back. And I'm saying this from experience. He's a good backup, but he is not a starter in the NFL.
Wow.
It's hard sometimes, as a player to internalize that and think that. But hey, I played an extra 4 years because I took it and ran with it. Cepeda is not a guy that I would trust starting, significant reps. He's great at coming in and being a Band-Aid, you know what I'm saying? But eventually you got to rip that Band-Aid off. This kid, Cam Jurgens, if it was a, far be it from me to say this, because I would never say I want to get hurt, but if Kelsey did get hurt and he couldn't play for the rest of the season, I would not have a problem putting this young man and filling in right now and him playing at a high level. He was a demon out there at Nebraska. I mean, you watch film on him. He's technique sound. He has long arms. He understands, how to run these zone systems, because that's what the Eagles run. They run a zone offensive line. He can do all that stuff. He can pull around and get that Mike linebacker. He plays well out in space. And he's just so nasty. He wants to finish. And even when the camera's not looking at him, he's still trying to finish the guy that he's trying to block.
And for a guy of his size, especially in his zone blocking scheme, you got to have the ability to get downfield in a hurry. And when you look at him on tape, he can get downfield in a hurry and run interference on those linebackers and safeties as well.
Yep, absolutely. We've seen great offensive lines. You have, especially with covering the Eagles and having those two bookends.
Right.
And, Kelsey made it so, you got the center being the focal point of the offensive line. Because he's so good, it's allowed that offensive line to really flourish. Kelsey will mentor this guy, and he'll be the same way. So, I love the pick. And just like how Rosen said in his interview, in his post-draft last night, this kid will play for a long time. He'll get mentored. And Kelsey loves the fact he was watching film on him. In fact, that's what he said. How he said we sent him a couple film on a couple offensive linemen they wanted to look at, and he loved the kid. And then when they did bring, he's one of the 30 kids they brought in. The 30 draft picks that they brought in.
Right.
See him, and when they brought him in, he said, "Hey man, I just talked to Kelsey, my hero." I'm like, there it is. There it is. Kelsey is ready to mentor him. He's going to give him everything he can. His offensive line coach is going to give him all he can. This will be a good player. Pro Bowler really, really, really soon. Once he starts starting, soon after that, he'll probably become a Pro Bowler, probably the next year.
Really? You think that quickly?
Yeah. This kid is good. He's good.
Hey, Barrett, don't rule out the possibility also that how the Eagles like versatile offensive linemen. He could possibly slide into that starting right guard position as well until he has to make the transition to center.
You're absolutely right. You have to be like that with with this offensive line. You got to be able to play both sides, which is why I don't see why Dillard. I think they're trying to do Dillard the same way as far as moving him in to play a little left guard.
Yep.
So don't rule that out either. I keep telling people his stock has went up since he played last year. It might have been the best thing that ever happened to him that he had to compete for a position. And once Dillard competed, he saw what it is being NFL offensive lineman. He's got bigger, he's got stronger.
Yeah.
I like the way he played. You know, he didn't miss a beat when he came in and started a lot last year. So, you know, this is offensive line that's going. You don't have to deal with these guys whether they want to pass block, run block, or whatever. These guys are going to be pretty good this year.
Barry, what makes Jeff Stoutland one of the best in the business in terms of not just coaching up offensive linemen, but making them jacks of all trades?
Really, his ability to get his philosophy to the guys there. You know, when you have a guy like Jason Peters, he took on the philosophy of that coach, and because of that, Jason Peters was like his olive branch. So his olive branch started sprouting olives, with guys that Jason Peters started coaching. Lane Johnson has the exact same set that Jason Peters gave, which you look at, Isaac Sayamalo has that set. You look at everybody that goes through, everybody plays like Jason Peters because Jason Peters learned that.
Yep.
Offensive line coach. So once get one guy to buy in, a guy that's going to be a future gold jacket wearer, then everybody starts to see that and see the success that has, and they start taking on those characteristics. That's what makes these guys so good. Their ability to see the vision through Jason Peters, and from that they see the success that he's had. Because they see that success, it's easy to get those guys to buy in. So everybody wants to play like let's say like Mike or like Jason Peters. So that's why they play like that.
You were a second round draft pick also back in the day. So tell me, what was your mindset like making a transition from college ball to the pros? What were some of the things that you wanted to make sure you did when you walked into that Philadelphia Eagles organization as a new professional athlete, and of course an organization drafting you that high in the second round?
I knew I was going to have to play. I knew I was going to have to play early. I didn't know I was going to be starting. In fact, I thought they brought me in to be a guard. But with all the things that happened with Bernard Williams, and he couldn't stay off the pot, I was thrust into starting at left tackle. Now, left tackle is a hard position to play, especially with the pass rushers that I had to face back then. Derek Thomas, Pat Swilling, guys like Charles Haley, Leslie O'Neal, Bruce Smith. I mean, these are guys that I was facing every single weekend. Chris Dolman. It never got easy. Every week that I played against somebody that was good, that was great actually. I mean, Reggie White, Mr. White. I call him Mr. Everybody else calls him White. Because of that, I had to make sure that I learned as much as I could from the veteran guys. Riley McKenzie, one of the original Hogs. He was my starting center. My starting left guard was Guy McIntyre. He played in all those Super Bowls, with Dwight Clark and those guys. So I wanted to, pattern myself after those guys and see what it is to be an NFL pro. And that's why, I think I had some success because I had great mentorship from guys like Mac and guys like Rollo. Those two took me under their wing and fed me what I needed to be fed to have a long career. It helped me out a lot. So same thing with having an offensive line coach like that and having guys like Kelsey in the room and Lane in the room, because you can see the success of what Coach Stoughton is trying to teach. And when you see guys like Lane and Jordan Mailata play the way they're playing and at the level that they're playing, it's easy to take on their characteristics because you see that product works. So, I mean, that's what it is. Both of those guys set just like Jason Peters. So why not, look at a guy like Kelsey as Jurgens comes in and just feed off him, take as much as he can off of him, and really pattern himself after a guy that has some great success. And I'll probably say that, Kelsey, once he does hang it up 5 years, 10 years later, he's going to wear a gold jacket also.
Compared to the way Jurgens will be taught to block in the NFL today, is it vastly different than the way you were taught when you came into the league back in the 90s?
Oh, absolutely. It wasn't until guys like Kevin Mawai that you have smaller centers, Stepnowski, that have these smaller centers that can move and get to that second level. It used to be that, you just use power, drive blocking to get to that second level. But once you got guys that can really, Damani Dawson, who can pull around, instead of guard pulling all the time, you have a guy like Damani Dawson pull or a guy that's, versatile enough to not just, drive block, but can pull around to get that linebacker in zone schemes. Once they figure that if you block that guard down and pull Stefanski around or pull Kevin Mawai around, and they can get to the second level, the running game changed. It made you more versatile as an offensive line because you could now get to that Mike linebacker. Mike linebackers used to make all the plays because you couldn't get to him fast enough. Well, these smaller centers, these quicker centers were able to get to him, and it really changed and revolutionized how you block run schemes because now you can get to that Mike linebacker, and that's why longer runs were being broke because you could block everybody on the field. It used to be the Mike linebacker was almost unblockable. You couldn't block him. With small guys like that, they would get to that second level, put their hand there, boom, get to that second level and block those linebackers.
So you think his smallish frame right now is an attribute more so than a hindrance when you're lining up against 330, 340-pound D tackles? Those type of D tackles used to be a rarity in the National Football League. Now they're becoming more commonplace, and that was one of the things on Kelce, earlier in his career that he used to get pushed around, so-called, by these bigger D tackles. But do you think he needs to add maybe 5 or 10 more pounds? Or they have him listed at 303 right now. Is his body type conducive to the style of play for that position now?
He might be a little better at 300 than Kelce is at 275, 280.
Okay.
I think, he's just as good as an athlete as Jason Kelce. But he's bigger, so a bigger frame. So he might be a little, more apt to be able to play against these bigger offensive linemen, these bigger defensive linemen that he's going to be blocking. He has a little more weight, a little bit more lead in his shorts than Kelce does. So see, I like his size. You definitely didn't see that it was hurting him as far as getting out and running, and you saw how explosive he was when he's blocking the line of scrimmage or when he's getting up to the second level blocking those linebackers. It's a versatile type of guy, but he's the new wave type of center that you want, like the Kevin Mawais and the guys like that.
Now, we know Jason Kelce will be his primary mentor, but would it be in his best interest to go up and down that line? You got a Pro Bowl right tackle over here, all right? You got Seumalo here. You got Mailata over there. Mailata's still a young player who took a long time to develop, but man, look at how he has developed. Would it be in Jurgens' best interest to go from tackle to tackle and absorb all the knowledge he possibly can, and especially even from some of the backup guys like Herbig, in terms of how to stay in the league, how to make yourself relevant, not just for a couple of years, but for long term?
No question. You have to, take from everything. As a center, you got to know everybody's job, everybody's assignment. And I think that's what elongated my career because I knew exactly what the center was going to do. Even though I might be starting left tackle, I knew what the right tackle was going to do, the right guard, what the center was going to do, because towards the end of my career, I even played in a game. I played the Cleveland Browns one year where I played right tackle, went in at left guard, and then played center, and then went back to the guard position. So I played all three in one game. The more you know, the more successful you can be because you know what everybody else is doing on the field. You can make the call. You know what the call is, and you know how to react. Even though you're playing another position. Plus, it just helps to know, guys like Lane who's going to give you that attitude, that nastiness, and a guy like Jordan Mailata, who's one of the freakiest athletes in the world. It's good to really know what everybody's going to do on the field. That way, you really don't have to ask any questions. You know exactly what's going to happen because you've already took care of the intangibles of knowing your playbook, making sure that you can, block whatever you need to block. And the more you can do, the longer you can be in the league.
Nebraska, of course, being in the Big Ten, and of course we've talked about on Sports Take how the Big Ten cranks out some massive and very productive offensive linemen year in and year out. And then I saw this note about Jurgens. He is the highest drafted Nebraska player, not lineman, player, since 2011. So I think that says a lot about his pedigree in terms of him being drafted that high in the NFL this year.
Well, no question about that. Nebraska wasn't Nebraska of old. It's not like when Irvin Fryer was the number one pick in the draft. He was the guy coming out, that flanker type of wide receiver. And it's no longer, the Tommy Frazier, Amon Green, those guys coming out. They've kind of, since they've moved to the Big Ten, they've kind of slowed down and being that factory of back when I was it was the Big Eight back then, a guy like Zach Weger, Corey Schlesinger, guys like that were coming out, all the time. So, it really, it really was a factory of, especially, you know, Grant Wimstrom, the defensive end. You know, so many great athletes that would come to this little town in Nebraska and play Nebraska football. You know, they were ranked at the top in the nation for years and years and years when they were really the tops in the Big 8 conference. So I remember, you know, when I first heard about the Big 8 conference, you knew about the big name teams, but I went to Kansas State. Kansas State won the teams that nobody knew about. It was Kansas State and Iowa State, two unknowns in the Big 8 conference. You know, eventually we jumped up there and we became, you know, one of the powerhouses. You know, like myself and, you know, guys like Sproles started coming out. You know, we started getting a little name then. But man, you know, Nebraska back then, you name it, bro. They had everything come out of there, from defensive backs to receivers, the running backs, you know, Lawrence Phillips, you know, remember all those guys used to come out from Nebraska. You know, but the mere fact this kid got drafted high as he is just goes to show how good he really is. I heard they made a promise to him and say, hey, you're in the second round, we're going to get you in the second round. Well, how we promised him, and he came through in his promise. He was sitting there in the second round, and they picked him up.
You grew up in a bigger city environment of St. Louis. Of course, you went to K-State. Nebraska's in Lincoln. It's a good-sized city, but it's not Philadelphia.
No, not even close.
What advice would you give to a young guy coming from the likes of Lincoln, Nebraska to Philadelphia in terms of don't be overwhelmed by the magnitude of the city, the passion of the fans, and the onslaught of media?
It's a different world, man, you know. If it was anything, you know, I mean, they probably will allow me to talk to the rookies when they do come in.
Yeah.
The Eagles usually invite me to talk to them, me and a couple other people, you know, players that played for them that still live in the city. And, you know, the first thing I probably tell them, you know, just like you said, don't be overwhelmed. You know, I can remember the first time I got here and people in South Philly parked right in the middle of the street. I'm like, what is this? I mean, who does this? You know what I'm saying? You can't park in the middle of the road. I mean, it's not like they're not parking spaces. They're just lanes, you know, they just park right there. So that was different. You know, it's just a different environment. Fans are definitely different because, you know, Nebraska has the nicest fans in the world. I mean, nice fans. You know, those fans, you know, hey, you know, I can remember they come in, they kick our butt as we're leaving out. Hey, maybe you'll get them next time, you know. Good job out there. You guys played hard, you know, but, you know, our Cornhuskers are pretty good. They're just nice fans. Well, they might not be as nice, you know, here in Philly. So just be ready to play. Keep your nose clean and make sure you, you know, you tend to your business. You know, if you go out and give your all, the city will love you.
Hey, he is Barrett Brooks. He is one of a kind. He is a great guy. I'm giving you so many props. I can't believe it, but I have to because you are who you said you are. Of course, hey, big shout out to all the people out there watching the JAKIB Media channel. Hey, keep hitting the like buttons every time you watch us, and more importantly, keep subscribing to the JAKIB Media channel as well. And also, don't forget to watch Barrett, myself, and Rob Ellis every day, Monday through Fridays, from noon to 3 on Sports Take right here on the JAKIB Media channel. And also, hey, don't forget, make your summer plans for sports right now with yours truly, Barrett Brooks, Rob Ellis, and myself. And get your summer plans in order right now at Ocean Casino Resort, the exclusive provider of all JAKIB Media content. Go for the beach, go for the win. This is Draft Takes. It is presented by IBEW Local 98. Mark Lynch, business manager. For Barrett Brooks, I'm Derek Gunn. Thanks for tuning in.
In Philadelphia, we celebrated the miracle with pride only 5 years ago. And then the following morning, IBEW Local 98 members went back to work, building this city, rescuing our communities from decay, and inspiring the young men and women of the region to take pride in who we are. Like the Cats, Local 98 members believe in hope.
To learn more about who we are, what we do, and career opportunities with Local 98, visit us, IBEW98.org.